Hey everybody, I hope that you're well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 6 English lesson on sentences, fragments, and run ons. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English Language Arts. We're doing grade 6. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of sentences, fragments, and run ons. All right. So in our previous lesson, we went over sentences, fragments, and run-ons, and we went over is it a complete sentence or fragment, or is it a complete sentence or a run-on? That was in our previous lesson, right? So today we're going to finish off our chapter on sentences, fragments, and run-ons by saying, is it a complete sentence? Is it a fragment, or is it a run-on? All right. So our chapter once again is sentences, it is fragments, and it's run-ons. Our subject is English Language Arts. Grade 6. And then the lesson that we are focusing on today is it a complete sentence, a fragment, or a run-on? All right. So a sentence, right? Before we go on to what a sentence, a fragment, and a run-on is, remember when you are writing, when you're writing either a sentence, you're writing a paragraph, you're writing an essay, right? You need to look at how you formulate and you write your specific sentences, right? And remember, within a completed sentence, we have both subject as well as a verb. So you should try and not also make the mistake of either missing out or leaving out a verb or leaving out a subject, or just going on and on and on without basically adding your end punctuation, right? By running on. So usually what we do is when we edit your essays or we help you with formulating your essays, then one of the things that we will also write on there will be like, is it a run on, where your grammar, your spelling, and so on is, right? That is the changes that we would try and make. So when you write sentences, right, you should try and stick to writing complete sentences with both subject as well as a verb. All right, so a sentence, right? A sentence, it is a group of words and that forms a complete thought. So a sentence is a group of words that completes a thought. And if we look at a sentence, right, it says, my friends walk along the path. My friends walk along the path. And if we look at that specific sentence, right? Remember, we said that when it comes to a sentence has both subject and it has a verb, right? Basically, both subject, the subject meaning the person or thing that is doing the action, as well as the action that is taking place. So we say, my friends walk along the path. My friends is the subject, or friends is the subject. Walk is our verb, or walk along the path is the verb. And when it comes to a sentence, right? Remember, like I say, you need to have a subject and you need to have a verb. You need to show who or what is doing something within the sentence, and you need to show the action that the person or thing is doing. And then we have a sentence fragment, right? And a sentence fragment, before we go into a sentence fragment, a sentence, right? It is a group of words that forms a complete thought and it has both subject and it has a verb. But now we have a sentence fragment. And a sentence fragment is a group of words that does not express a complete thought. And a sentence fragment, right? Remember, we said it does not express a complete thought. No problem. A sentence fragment does not express a complete thought. And with the sentence fragment, it is either missing a subject, meaning they either don't have a subject in that sentence, or it is missing a verb, meaning there is no verb in that sentence, or it is missing a helping verb, meaning that the sentence is not making sense because there's no helping verb, right? So that is a sentence fragment. It does not express a complete thought. It is either missing a subject, or it's missing a verb, or it's missing a helping verb. And if we look at an example, right, we say knows the answer. Knows the answer. And if we look at that sentence, it says knows the answer. Knows the answer. But now the question is, there we have our verb, which is knows, right? But now the question is, who knows the answer? So the question is, who knows the answer? And since we don't have that answer, right, it means that it is missing a subject. There is no person or thing that they're talking about. So which means that it is missing a subject. If you look at the next sentence, it says the bright red car. The bright red car. So the bright red car. And if we look at that, it says the bright red car. There we have our subject. But now the question is, what is the bright red car doing? What is the bright red car doing? Right? Which means that it is missing a verb. There's no verb. It's not telling us what the bright red car is doing. Then we're looking at the next one. It says, we skiing next week. We skiing next week. If we look at that sentence, it says, we skiing next week. There's something missing there in that sentence. And if you look over here, we don't just say we skiing. We need to say we are skiing, or we will be skiing, or something. But we are, it is missing a helping verb. There is no are or something of the sort, right? It just says we. Must at least say we or we're, right? Skiing next week, which means that that is missing a helping verb, right? And that those three examples we call sentence fragments, right? Sentence fragments, it does not express a complete thought. It's either missing a verb, or it's missing a subject, or it's missing a helping verb. Whereas a sentence, right? It shows a group of words and it forms a complete thought. And when it comes to a sentence expresses um, a sentence has both verb and it has a subject. That is a it expresses a complete thought. That is a sentence. Now we have a run on sentence. If we look at run on sentence, right? If you write the paragraph and you are just going and going and going, and there's more than one subject, more than one verb in the sentence, there's no end punctuation, and you are just writing, writing, writing with no end punctuation, then we call that run on sentences. And a run on sentence, it is made up of two independent clauses. Remember, two independent clause can stand on its own. And these independent clauses, it is joined without an end punctuation. Or in this run-on sentence, this independent clauses, right, it is joined with just a comma. And that we call a run-on sentence. It's like you're just writing and writing and writing. We have our independent clauses, right? but there's no in punctuation, or it is just a comma. If we look at an example, right? Our example says, I knocked on the door, it opened. Our second example says, it started raining, we ran inside. And if we look at the first one, right, there we have two independent clauses. I knocked on the door, it opened, but there's no end punctuation somewhere over there, only at the end. And if you look at the second example, right, here we at least it is joined by a comma where it says it started raining, we ran inside. So that is two sentences that are run-on sentences. The one is joined without an end punctuation, and the second one is at least joined with a comma. But now, when it comes to run on sentences, we can fix run on sentences to basically make or write a completed sentence. So we can fix a run on sentence. And when we fix a run on sentence, right, then it means that we need to separate it into two sentences. I try to separate it by, drawing the line where the independent clause is. So we're going to separate it into two sentences. Once we separate it into two sentences, remember sentence, it starts with a capital letter and a sentence ends with an end mark. And when we say an end mark or end punctuation, then it means that a sentence either ends with a period, or it ends with a question mark, or it ends with an exclamation mark. That is an end point or an end punctuation, right? That is what a sentence starts with, capital letter, and it ends with either a period, question mark, or exclamation mark. So to fix a run-on sentence, we need to separate it into two sentences. Once we've separated it into two sentences, like for example, I knocked on the door, it opened, right? They were already separated it. But now when we write it down, it means that we need to, once we separate it, we're going to now say we're going to start our first sentence with a capital letter. I knocked on the door, and then put our period, because that is our first sentence. We're not separated it into two sentences. So the first sentence starts with the capital letter and it ends with a period. Then we have our second sentence. It opened. We then start with the capital letter it and it opened, period. There we have our two sentences. It has a subject and it has a verb. So we just fix that run on sentence by separating it into two sentences. We added our in punctuation after the first sentence, like over there. And we capitalize the second one, which is like it. Capital letter I for it. Right? If we fix this run on sentence with a comma, then we're going to separate it into two sentences by saying it started raining. Here we have a capital letter for the start of our sentence. It started raining, period. So we remove the comma, we put period after that first sentence. It started raining. Then the start of our second sentence, we ran inside. We then start our second sentence with a capital letter for we ran inside, and period. That is our two sentences that we basically fixed. And now we have a subject, we have a verb. And it expresses now a complete thought. Our sentence starts with a capital letter and it now ends with a period. Right? We can also fix a run on sentence by rewriting that sentence, which is the two clauses that are joined without any punctuation. We can write that sentence, that run on sentence, right? Rewrite it as a compound sentence. We can write it as a compound sentence. And a compound sentence, it is made up of two independent clauses, and that two independent clauses, for example, I knocked on the door, it opened, or started raining, we ran inside. That is two independent clauses. But now a compound sentence, it is made up of two independent clauses. It is then joined by a comma and a coordinating conjunction. So, comma, coordinating conjunction. And our coordinating conjunctions are words like and, but, or so. That is our coordinating conjunctions. So our compound sentence, it is made up of two independent clauses that we now join together. And once we join it together, we first write the comma and then our coordinating conjunction. And that is how we use, or what we use to join that two sentences to make it one completed sentence. And if we want to look at an example, we can say, I knocked on the door, comma, and it opened. There we have comma and opened. Our comma and our coordinating conjunction. And the next one says, it started raining, comma, so we ran inside. We just joined our two sentences to form one compound sentence. All right, so that is sentences, it is fragments, and it's run on. And we said a sentence, it basically is a group of words that forms a complete thought. It has a subject and a verb. A sentence fragment, right? It does not express a complete thought. It's either missing a subject, missing a verb, or it's missing a helping verb. And then we have a run on sentence, which is made up of two independent clauses that is joined without an end punctuation, or it is joined with just a comma. And we can fix a run on sentence by either writing the two sentences by separating it, and then once we separate it, we start our sentence with the capital letter, and we end each of our sentences with a period. All right. Or we can fix a run-on sentence by writing it as a compound sentence. And a compound sentence is where we join our two independent clauses. Once we join our two independent clauses with a comma as well as a coordinating conjunction, and that is when we get our compound sentence. All right, so now we're going to aplusstudents.ca, and we're going over, is it a complete sentence fragment or a run on? right? So I basically went over, briefly explained examples of what a sentence, a fragment, and a run-on is. We said a sentence is a completed thought, and it has a verb and it has a subject. We say a sentence, it expresses a complete thought and it has a subject and a verb. A sentence fragment does not express a complete thought. It's either missing a subject, missing a verb, or missing a helping verb. And then we said a run on sentence, right? It is two independent clauses that is either joined by no in punctuation or a comma. So that is a brief of sentences, fragments, and run ons. All right, so now we're going to say a vertical garden or green wall is a wall covered with vegetation. Vertical gardens are gaining popularity around the world. It says a vertical garden or green wall is a wall covered with vegetation. Vertical gardens are gaining popularity around the world. We need to say which is a run on. Okay, not there, but we need to basically choose the correct one, right? All right, so now let's go to our test where we're going to say what is a sentence, if it's a fragment, or if it's a run on. So we're going to the test. All right, so which is a run on sentence? A run on sentence is it option one, where it says the police returned my wallet. I had left it on the trolley. All right. So it says the police returned my wallet. I had left it on the trolley. Or option two, in 1954, a meteorite hit Anne Hodges inside her own living room. Which one is correct that shows a run on sentence? A run on sentence. And if we were to choose the correct option, then we will choose option one. Well done. All right, and that is correct. It says, which is a sentence fragment? It says, in the midst of ski season, a gigantic avalanche. Or it says, Ellie determined the diameter of the circle. So we now need to say which one is a sentence fragment. All right. And if we were to choose the correct option, either option one, in the midst of the ski season, a gigantic avalanche, or Ellie determined the diameter of the circle. We need to select a sentence if it's a sentence fragment. Meaning, remember we said that with a sentence fragment is either missing a subject or it is missing a verb or it is missing a helping verb. All right, so now yes, we can say in the midst of ski season a gigantic avalanche. That is a sentence fragment. There is just something missing over there. Well done. Option 1 is correct. We need to select a completed sentence. It says the subject forfeited his rights to a trial by jury, or the flight attendant on our return trip from Phoenix. Which one is correct? Option 1, the suspect forfeited his right to a trial by jury, or option 2, the flight attendant on our return trip from Phoenix. And if we were to choose the correct option, we will choose option 1. So well done. Option 1 is correct. We now need to say which is a complete sentence. It says option 1, Emma always enchants audiences with the raw emotion in her performances. Or option 2, made both of the pie crust with lard inside of butter. We need to select the complete sentence. Option 1 or option 2. And if we were to choose our correct option, then yes, we will choose option 1 again. Well done. 1 again is correct. We now need to say which is a run on sentence. A run on sentence. It says, for the A major chord, a guitar player places the first, second, and third fingers at the second fret. Or option 2, we forgot to pack utensils. I will run to the store. So for the A, option 1, for the A major chord, a guitar player places the first, second, and third fingers at the second fret. Or option 2, we forgot to pack utensils. I will run to the store. Which one is correct? And if we were to choose our correct option, then yeah, we will choose option two, which is a run on sentence. That sentence has got no in punctuation. All right, which is a complete sentence with both subject, both verb. It says celery, onions, and carrots compose the French Maya pokes, a base for soups and sauces. Or option two, grab another log, the fire is dying down. A complete sentence. Which is a complete sentence? Option one or option two? Celery, onions, and carrots compose the French mayo pokes, a base for soups and sauces. Or option two, grab another log, the fire is dying down. And if we were to choose the correct option, then we will say completed sentence is option one. All right. So the last one. It says Molly found the volume of the cylinder. She multiplied the area of the base by the height. And option two says the reporter writing an article with questionable sources. We need to select the run on sentence. Is it option one, which says Molly found the volume of the cylinder? She multiplied the area of the base by the height. Or option two, the reporter writing an article with questionable sources. Option one or option two. And if we were to choose our correct option, right, that basically shows a run on sentence, and then we can say option one, which is Molly found the volume of the cylinder. She multiplied the area of the base by the height. So option one, actually, right? That one is correct. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on sentences, fragments, and run-ons. We see a sentence, it expresses a complete thought and it has both subject and a verb. A sentence fragment does not express a complete thought. It's either missing a subject, missing a verb, or missing a helping verb. And then we said a run-on sentence. It has two independent clauses that is joined. It does not have a in punctuation, or it is just joined by a comma. And we can fix our run-on sentence by either writing it as a compound sentence or by adding our end punctuation and then starting our next sentence with a capital letter. All right, so you separate the two sentences into two. So this is now the end of our lesson on sentences, fragments, and run-ons. Thank you very much, grade 6, for joining the class. Thank you for interacting. Thank you for the answers. I really hope that you have a way better understanding of what sentences, fragments, and run-ons mean. So till next time, have a good evening further. Goodbye.